What's going on, Nerd Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Comic Book Nerd Nation. I'm Fox2. Today I'm here with Topher,
Hey guys.
the whole effing Brian,
I have nothing good to say today. Hello.
and unfortunately, DePirate was not able to make it today, so he will be back in future episodes. Don't worry. As you can tell behind me and as well behind Topher, today's theme is definitely going to be Batman. So we're going to be talking about all things Batman, key issues, big graphic novels, huge impacting storylines, things like that. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in, and let's start with The Killing Joke. Everybody here has read The Killing Joke, correct?
Yep.
Okay, thoughts on it. We'll start with you, Brian.
Well, I mean, The Killing Joke to me is one of those iconic Batman stories that, obviously the Joker's in it. The Joker's the main focus in it. And it just shows you a lot in that story of just how diabolical, how chaotic, but how smart in those ways that the Joker is. By this whole story is basically he's screwing with Commissioner Gordon. Of course there's the iconic scene where he shoots and paralyzes Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, and it's just one of those really great reads that just show you just how messed up in the Joker is as a character, as a villain, as a person.
I love the Joker in that book, just for the simple fact that it's not written in a way that portrays him as like insane or crazy, which a lot of writers will do that. They'll play off the whole psychosis, craziness of him. But in this one, I think you said it really well. Like it makes him seem incredibly intelligent, well thought out and planned, but just like so messed up in the head and diabolical that he just loves inflicting pain and not just physical pain but psychological pain and torture on others. And the way that they really, how well spoken and thought out all of his phrasing is just incredible in that book. Topher?
Yeah, I think it actually does play into his psychoses a little bit. I mean, I don't think he's portrayed as, completely batshit insane as batshit.
I see what you did there.
As some stories have, but I think they are showing his insanity in that he sees the world in a very different way. We get a Joker origin story here, that shows that at one time he had a wife and a kid on the way and was a normal human being trying to make ends meet.
Right.
And then he's going out of his way and he makes some bad decisions, but he's trying to do what's in the best interest of his family. And the whole thing is he has one bad day, and that's pretty much all it takes to throw his world into chaos and create a monster. And he's trying to prove to Batman and to Gotham and to the world and whoever happens to be listening that all it takes is one bad day to throw even the best of men into the depths of something wicked. And he decides he's going to give Jim Gordon that bad day and break him. And I think
work.
And it doesn't work, which we all knew it wouldn't work. But I think the fact that he thought it would work, goes to show just how broken in the head he really is. While his schemes may have been intelligently planned out, it just shows he sees the world in a very different way. Like the whole right or wrong, good or bad. It's what happens to somebody in the course of their lives that defines who they are. And, if his set of circumstances, he was dealt a shitty hand, and he's trying to show that anybody would do the same under those circumstances. And, he doesn't quite get the outcome he's looking for, but I don't think that decreases his belief that, that good people will end up doing bad things under dire circumstances.
So it's almost like he's trying to justify himself and his actions through proving that, like you said, someone else under the same circumstances would have reacted the same way by torturing, Jim Gordon and things like that. That's some deep shit.
I think this portrayal of the Joker, actually, I mean, this one obviously came before the Christopher Nolan movies, but I think this one is pretty close to Heath Ledger's Joker, in that he's a very well thought out, planned character who just enjoys chaos and has very strategic plans and doesn't necessarily want to just go around wholesale slaughtering everyone he comes across. He's not like a serial killer or a complete terrorist. He just wants to make a point. He sees Batman as his antithesis, like the other side of the coin. What could have happened, to that Bruce Wayne himself could have turned out that way, perhaps, after what happened to his parents, and instead he becomes Batman. The Joker becomes who he is, but he, I felt it was very close to to the Dark Knight movie, Heath Ledger portrayal, especially in that, like in that movie when he takes the two barges, and he, with all the convicts on one and the normal citizens on the other, and he gives them a detonator. If he wanted to kill those people, he easily could have 20 times over. He wants to prove a point. He's not in it to kill, to murder, to do whatever. He's in there to prove that at heart all people have the potential for evil. And he gives them that detonator. He puts it in their hands. He says, like under dire circumstances, let's see what people are really made of. Like we're going to put them in a bad situation. We're going to give them one bad day and see how they turn out.
Yeah. Brian, you got anything to add?
Some people just want to see the world burn.
That's it. So
it's that phrase they put in that movie that pretty much describes the Joker
to a T.
Yep.
So let's skip ahead. We've talked a little bit about, obviously, the focal character of The Killing Joke was the Joker. Let's talk about the end. Okay, I didn't pick this up right away the first time that I read the book, but after listening to some podcasts about the book and things like that, it was brought to my attention that there is a large percentage of the comic book community out there that strongly feels that at the end of The Killing Joke, Batman actually kills Joker. Like, this is the final Joker story. It was the Killing Joke. When Joker cracks the joke at the end and he starts laughing, and Batman laughs a little bit, and then you go back and Joker's laughing, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to silence and goes dark. Maybe he snapped his neck? I don't know. We didn't get the noise, the onomatopoeia in the text depicting that exactly, but did he perhaps choke him, strangle him? It definitely puts a big twist on the picture of the book as a whole, at least for me, that, because Batman throughout the book, even at the very, very beginning of the book, is struggling with this idea that, this eternal conflict basically between himself and the Joker, the yin and the yang, if you will, that it's going to have to end at some point, and the only probable way that this could end is that, one of them is going to die.
Especially the way Batman sets it up at the beginning, when he goes to Arkham to seek out the Joker before he even realizes he's loose and has this plot up his sleeve. He says, look, I feel like we're headed towards an inevitable conclusion here, that one of us, that neither of us are going to be able to rest until the other one's dead.
Yeah. So, Brian, what do you think? Do you think that at the end of the book, do you think Batman killed Joker? Do you think that was just a...
I think it's left to the reader's interpretation. If you remember the end of Sopranos, the last episode,
spoilers.
It reminds me. Yeah, spoilers.
Excuse me for a moment.
What they did at the end of The Killing Joke was the same thing they did at the end of The Sopranos. The screen just went black, and you just don't know what happened to him. I think by doing that, there's no real solution to this ending. It's just left for the readers to ponder and think what could happen by how the book transitioned to the end.
Yeah, I think that it was intentionally, obviously, written with the idea of the I'm sorry, I can't. Something's rattling over there somewhere, but anyway, I think that it was intentionally written by Alan Moore with the idea of killing the Joker, but not in a way that it was just like, here's the blade, here's Batman stabbing the Joker, but more like you said, like kind of leave it a little ambiguous. So in his own mind, in Alan Moore's mind, he wrote the final book. He wrote the final triumphant victory, the main victory of Batman taking down Joker. But in the DC universe, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be, because there's that gray area there, that room for interpretation and stuff. You don't know 100% for sure. You didn't see the Joker dead. You're not really sure. So I don't know.
I think they left it. I think a lot of good authors like to leave some endings open to interpretation. They'll set something up. If they, a lot of authors have said, that if you write every last detail, then you're giving too much away. Like you set the stage, you have things happen, but you leave it up to the reader to fill in the holes and interpret that. And a lot of writers have said that good writers will fill in every single detail. They'll spell everything out for you. But great writers will tell a story in what they don't say. And I think it's very much left open to interpretation at the end, and that it very much could go either way. And I think Alan Moore wanted people to think, did he do it? Could he have done it? Is that who he was? Like what had it gotten? Is there an act? Is there a line that the Joker can cross? Is there an act that he can go so far that Batman will go back on his one rule for himself and decide to kill? And I think I don't think he necessarily meant it to be either way. I think he very much wanted people to think about how they would see it. I don't know that he necessarily intended it one way or the other. Especially considering the fact that I want to say, I don't know this for certain, but I was thinking that the Killing Joke was not necessarily meant to be in continuity. When Alan Moore wanted to write it, the DC basically said, hey, you can write any story you want. What do you want to do? And he said he wanted to do a Batman story. Now he didn't do, this wasn't part of a run in the comics. He wasn't, this wasn't issue numbers whatever through whatever. This was, from the beginning, a standalone graphic novel outside of the main continuity. And so, there's a little bit of license there with what he could do with it. If he had decided to have Batman kill the Joker right there, on the page and in a very definitive manner, I don't think it would have entered continuity the way it has. As it turns out, they decided that they really liked where it went, and a lot of other authors decided to run with Barbara Gordon being shot and paralyzed, and that kind of entered canon. But I think when it was done, it was very open to interpretation and left open as to, hey, this could have actually happened. He might have actually finally snapped.
Right. Well, all in all, regardless of what anybody's interpretation of the ending is as far as it goes to did the Joker die or not, this is a great read. If you're a comic book fan, especially if you consider yourself to be a fan of Batman, you have to get this book. This is definitely a must-read. Highly, highly recommend it. Before we go on and talk about some other issues of Batman, other graphic novels, if you will, I want to jump over and talk about, that's The Killing Joke. That's it. Good book. Very notable cover. Awesome cover art. Let's jump over. I want to talk for a couple minutes about Batman movies. Okay, so let's do a quick run through. I think this will be this will be very entertaining and kind of funny if we just go back and reminisce a little bit about some of the Batman movies that have been produced. So obviously it all started with the Adam West Batman on TV. That was when it got big. Right there it is. And from there, the first time that Batman was really theatrically introduced was 1989 Batman, directed by, I can never remember his freaking
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. I don't know why I can't ever remember his name. Michael Keaton starring as Batman. Thoughts on this movie? I'm going to jump right in. This movie was not Batman. This movie was not Batman. It wasn't a bad movie, and it was a huge step in the right direction from the Adam West Batman character that was very light and goofy almost. But this Batman had guns in his car and missiles, and how many people did he kill? Throughout the movie itself, had to be dozens.
Did he kill anybody?
I don't think that they showed them bleeding on the concrete, but I have to assume that if you're shooting missiles and firing Gatling guns out of your car and shit like that somebody's gonna die.
Batman has fired bullets all the time in the comics, and he's got wicked guns, and then he always comments on how they were rubber bullets afterward.
So, but rubber rockets though?
Maybe.
I think you see where I think you see the train of thought here. I don't know. Brian, your 2 cents on 1989 Batman?
If you think of all the Batmans that came after it, between Tim Burton's and Christopher Nolan's, they were all shit. So until Christopher Nolan's came out, those were the best Batman movies. Despite him in a giant rubber suit, can't turn his neck. You can't really tell.
No Batman could turn his neck until the second Christopher Nolan movie, actually. Because
they kind of commented on that.
Even in the first one, he couldn't turn his neck. Yeah.
But it wasn't bad. It was dark. You have Jack Nicholson playing an incredible Joker.
One of the best, probably, in my opinion,
only been 2
very
Jokers.
Close to Heath Ledger.
Yeah, and then you had Michelle doing the Batman Returns, another Tim Burton Batman movie.
That was such a terrible movie.
Yeah, it was kind of, but
kind of.
It wasn't bad.
Kind of.
When I think about Batman movies, I'm thinking about, Christopher Nolan's take is a whole different take on Batman, Bruce Wayne, Alfred, and all that. Tim Burton's movies were, I guess he was trying to be comic book movies. And then the things in between weren't Batman. They were just...
I didn't think it was terrible.
It was awful. It was awful. And here's why. Okay?
It suffered from a lack of
direction?
Of bad guys.
Yeah. No, it had too many bad guys.
No, because they tried to make Catwoman too much of a bad guy when, she's very ambiguous in the comics a lot of times, and they tried to make Penguin a major villain. Well, Penguin is a major villain in the comics, but Penguin himself doesn't really do a lot. He just pays a bunch of thugs to do stuff. Yeah. And when you do that in a movie, you end up having stupid fights with a bunch of thugs, or you have to do some grand design, or you end up with a giant fucking rubber duck. And that's when it just falls apart. It's like...
Here's my problem.
Or a penguin army with rockets on it.
Right. Okay, so that's too... Here is my... One of my biggest problems with Batman Returns, the second movie by Tim Burton. It's incredibly evident that he has no interest in Batman whatsoever when you watch this movie. He is far more interested in the twisted, sinister side of the Penguin. and Catwoman than he is with the hero, the title hero of the movie. You can go, it's like, I can't remember exactly, but I looked it up at one point. It's like a half an hour into the movie before you even see Batman. And then you go like another 45 or 50 minutes before you even see him again. What kind of Batman film doesn't have Batman in it at least 25% of the time?
I don't remember that one as much as I do the first one, though. I mean, like, do you think that Tim Burton did a bad job on the original?
I think he did a better job on the original, and because that movie did so well financially in the box office, they gave him a little bit more room, a little more creative license to do Batman Returns his way, and you can see it. If you go back and watch it, you can definitely see it. I mean, he talks about okay, think about it. The Batman 1, 1989 was such a big hit that when Batman Returns came out, that there was a deal with McDonald's where there was actually toys in kids' meals.
Yeah.
Right? I remember when
I think one of them was the Penguins. One of them was that
being said, in the movie, like, the main plot of his movie is for him to go and get all of the firstborn children of Gotham and murder them all.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's pretty dark and twisted. And that's only like one of the three, like there's all these main schemes, if you want to call it that, throughout this movie that it just doesn't tie itself together very well at all. It just seems like he was doing everything that he could to make it as like screwed up as possible. Like, not screwed up in a sense of a bad movie, but screwed up in the sense of like dark, twisted, demented, like evil, like perfect example. At the end of the movie, okay, when Penguin is getting ready to die, he is bleeding from the head, red blood, and there's this like green shit oozing out of his mouth that's supposed to be blood-ish something. Like what value does that bring to the that brings no value to the movie whatsoever, except for like, that's kind of gross looking. Like, and that's it. And that's all there is to it. And there's so many things along the way that are like that it just to me it feels like Tim Burton just got loose on it, and this is what we ended up with.
So I'll be honest, I watched that movie like probably once, when it came out.
And there's a reason for that.
20 years ago, and I don't remember it ever since. So I can't really, refute anything you're saying. But to get back to the original topic of the first Tim Burton Batman movie, I'm guessing your major problem with it is that it spawned a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, based on the sequel, I would say that's my biggest problem with it. I like the first one. I think, like Brian said, if you take a look at what its predecessor, the Adam West TV series, was versus, even like the Joel Schumacher Batmans, which we'll talk about here in a second, it's pretty good.
Look what it did, though, for Batman. I mean, it brought him back into the national spotlight.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you had Adam West Batman, who was campy and was still liked to a certain degree, but the 80s, when everything went darker and edgier, and like, you've got all these great stories.
It was a little more Batman.
Killing Joke and Dark Knight Returns and Year One and all this stuff. But nobody outside of comics knew anything about what was going on in comics and Batman. And then sure, there's the Super Friends cartoon in the 80s that we talked about last week, and I wish Pirate was here, because after last week I went back and I dug out my Batmobile, which does still have its windshields intact, unlike his. And I've even got my Batman and Robin action figures to go with it.
Is that the Robin figure that has like the little booty shorts on?
Oh yeah, check it. He's like a little speedy elf. You squeeze his legs together, and he does this like karate chop. It's pretty awesome.
God. Yeah. Poor Dick Grayson.
Check out those shorts, though. I mean, he's got like booty shorts on.
I might have to censor that out.
You might have to. Robin definitely was a twerker.
He's twerking.
But before that, like, other than that, you didn't really have, like kids were playing with these wimpy versions of Batman, and then Tim Burton comes around and now we can answer the Joker's question: where did we get such wonderful toys? Well, we got them because of Tim Burton's Batman movie.
I agree completely. I think that it did a lot for moving Batman more towards the comic book version of Batman. I just think that, and I mean, it's not fair to compare Batman Returns to any of the Nolan movies because the technology that's available now, the style of making movies now, what's acceptable in theaters now is all drastically different than it was in the early 90s. So, it's a whole nother ballgame. But let's move on to Brian's favorite part of the Batman movies, and that's the Joel Schumacher versions. So we'll start with Batman Forever. Brian, let's hear what you think about
crap.
Just
they're crap. I mean,
you don't see anything good in Batman Forever. Nothing good at all.
Nothing, because the movie was all bright. They added every gang had like neon paint and just neon this and neon that. I mean, they made it like a joke. I mean, you had, who was in that? Was that Val Kilmer or was that?
Val Kilmer was Batman.
Actually, hang on, I'm gonna go. I have it. I think in the other room. Give me 1 second.
Batman was Val Kilmer, and then the villains you had Two-Face was Tommy Lee Jones, and you had Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
I mean, they even added the neon lights to the Batmobile, which looked weird. I think it had actually one fin right directly in the middle in the back, so it looked more like a shark than anything. You had Tommy Lee Jones, which was he was almost like a thuggy, dumb type Two-Face.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at.
Jim Carrey was, to me, his Riddler was more of a Joker than a Riddler.
Yeah.
You had...
You really think so?
Yeah, he was more of a Joker than like his riddles were more like he was doing them constantly, and he was all zany and everything.
I mean, he was obviously being Jim Carrey, We just,
yeah.
We weren't used to Jim Carrey yet at that point, But like, I don't know. I still liked it. I thought it was a lot better than Batman Returns. I thought it was better than the second Tim Burton movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it wasn't nearly as good as the first Tim Burton movie, but I thought it was. It was a little colorful, but I didn't mind it. I didn't mind that though, because there was a very stark contrast between Batman and and like the black and white, or not black and white, but like the colors they used were very dark and black around him, and then with the villains you had all these colors, and so like visually I didn't mind how they set the villains apart, with all the colors, like it didn't devolve into the circus show that that was the next Batman movie.
I did not like the colors. I didn't like... I mean, I remember even seeing this at a relatively young age and thinking, why does that guy have neon lights on his machine gun? Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do that. Like, there's literally zero benefit from this. I mean... I can't even... I'm struggling to find the words to express like how disappointing it was to go in and see this movie knowing that Two-Face and Riddler were going to be in it, which were two pretty awesome characters in my opinion, and then they did all that crazy shit with the neon lights and the colors, and I mean I can get some of the bright colors on Jim Carrey the Riddler, and the box, I think is what they called it, that like sucks their brainwaves out. Like I get the bright green colors on that and stuff, but for me it was like you said, Brian, like the neon paint on the gangs, the neon lights on their guns, and it's just a little too much,
But you're forgetting that it gave us Seal's Kiss from a Rose.
It did. That is probably my favorite part of that entire movie was Seal's Kiss from a Rose. That's probably
Yeah.
that's probably the best thing that came out of that entire movie. So
I think everybody had that soundtrack.
I think so. I think so. And if you didn't, all you had to do was turn on your damn radio because they played it
Right.
every 6 minutes. Oh,
Kissed
God.
by a
I was just waiting for somebody to break up. So
But
this,
also Tommy Lee Jones, his Two-Face was just more of a dummy. He was a big dummy.
yeah, he
I
wasn't.
mean, Two-Face is never a big dummy.
No, Two-Face is it's Harvey Dent. I mean, he's supposed
Yeah.
to be an incredibly intelligent district attorney, and he turned into like a
dummy.
I don't even.
But he had 2 girlfriends, so at least it was cool.
But somehow
One
that
for each
movie
face.
did well in the box office, and they gave Joel Schumacher control of the next movie,
Oh God.
which again was twice as bad as the first.
It was like a messy poo.
It was
second worst superhero movie film of all time.
Oh man,
It
it
is.
is. I'll give you the first big giant reason. Bat nipples.
Bat nipples. Yeah.
The bat nipples on the fucking suit. I
Why
mean,
do you put nipples on the bat suit? What
Yeah.
does that? What function does that serve?
it's to protect it when they get cold.
Oh,
And they get
okay.
hard
So like
nipples.
when they pop out and they get cold,
Yeah.
you're not like
No,
chafing
those are-
them.
Those are bat diamond cutters. He could use those to.
That's how he cuts his way into a glass.
Forget what's on the outside of the bat suit though, and think about what was in the bat suit was even worse. George Clooney. Really?
Yeah, he was pretty awful Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just,
What part of George Clooney says ass-kicking detective to you?
I mean, but then you can take that to a whole other level, and main villain Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
that was
Which,
Chill out.
Chill out.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Like just a bunch of like half English shitty one-liners, and like painting his face blue all of a sudden makes him Mr. Freeze. Again, Mr. Freeze is a well-known scientist that's supposed to be incredibly intelligent. All of a sudden now he's making dumbass third grader level one-liners about the Ice Age killing the dinosaurs. Like,
I'll be honest,
Come on.
after like the Broadway show where, he dresses everybody up, and they do some ice dancing,
Oh yeah. The singing.
figure skating exhibition, I completely blocked everything having to do with Mr. Freeze out
Wasn't
from that
he
movie. So
What was he watching? He was watching one of those Christmas animated, the puppet Christmas movies.
the claymation.
Yeah, I think it was Jack Frost or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
it was Jack Frost. Yeah. God. And then you had Poison Ivy.
Uma Thurman was hot back then, so I didn't mind that much.
She was actually
Uma
not
Thurman-
a bad Poison Ivy, I didn't think.
She was one of the better parts of that movie, and actually, I didn't mind Chris O'Donnell as Robin.
No,
either.
I think he did a good job.
I
Actually,
thought he
as
did a
Robin
good
in both
job.
movies,
He just had to play off of George Clooney as
Yeah.
Batman.
which
And-
They
The-
also had the shittiest Bane ever.
Wait, Bane was in that?
Yeah, Bane was they made Bane Uma Thurman's like little thug. He was like stupid. He was maybe about like not even 6 foot. They painted him all green, and his suit was like a goth. It looked like a goth suit added to the Bane suit, and he was dumb. He only said like 3 words: bomb, bomb, when he was planting the bombs.
Okay, I don't think I ever realized that about that movie. That
That's
actually
good.
makes
Go
it
back
even
and
worse.
watch. Go back and
No,
watch it.
no.
Just
No.
do it.
You know what we should do?
Just
One of these
fast
episodes.
forward through it.
You know, we should do one of these
It's like
episodes.
a Mystery
we should
Science
watch it.
Theater 3000 style ribbing of the entire thing.
We
Yeah.
we should all watch it and have it on silent, and so we can like do an audio track commentary of our own about how fucking terrible that movie is.
Mystery Nerd Theater.
Yeah, Mystery Nerd Theater. We might have to add that to our repertoire in the Nerd Nation. But
The only thing I liked about the suits was they kind of
the
took,
nipples.
yeah,
You
the
like
nipple.
the
Besides the
nipples.
nipple, where they for Chris O'Donnell's suit in that movie, they kind of took the whole Nightwing thing and put it on his suit.
Yeah, yeah.
With the mask, he kind of had a Nightwing type mask. In the first movie, the movie before that, he had like kind of on his rubber suit the R, but his chest piece was kind of like the old booty short Robin's upper top.
And which one?
I just had to check and make sure that my Batman figurine didn't have nipples on it. It does not.
That's
We're
good.
okay.
We're all right. We might have had to burn that on camera.
I know.
So which one of the two Joel Schumacher movies was it that Robin had probably the worst comic book line in all of comic book history?
Oh, Holy Rusted
Metal!
Holy
Batman.
Rusted Metal Batman.
I love it that you both knew exactly.
That was in the
what I
first.
saying.
That was in Forever, I think.
No, it was. That was in. It was in Batman and Robin, because I don't think Robin was even in Batman Forever, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. That's where they did the
That's where they
origin
introduced
story.
them.
Oh yeah.
Where,
Okay,
the
but
the
no, it
Flying
was.
Graysons.
It was towards the end when they're climbing
The
like
crag,
this
the
giant
metal
metal
crag, yeah.
metal crag thing up, and when they're headed into like Poison Ivy's lair or something, I think.
That reminded me of the old show on TV, and this I'm totally.
That was why they did it.
myself. Guts.
Oh.
Do you guys remember that TV show?
Yeah. The Astro
Crag.
The Astro Crag at the end. Tell me that didn't look exactly like it, but just made out of metal. I'm just saying.
See, it's funny you should bring that line up, because I was actually going to bring that up as the one part of the movie that I actually enjoyed.
I thought it was
funny.
I thought it was funny because it referenced the old.
Adam
West
were.
stuff.
I mean, they were throwing in a reference back to it.
But it was just
and he's
so
like, he's like,
dirtball cheesy.
What did you just say?
What did you say to me?
It's metal and it's rusted and has holes. Oh,
I gotta interrupt you guys for a second, but Holy Rusted Metal came from Batman Forever.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Batman Forever at the end of Batman Forever.
I think it's.
We just got
going
fact checked hard.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I was inner conflicting with that. It's when they're going to Riddler's hideout and they're climbing up the
which
shore.
Which is also known as the Astro Crag from Guts.
Yeah, it is. It's glowing green. I just watched the YouTube thing on it.
Oh, that's so funny.
But also, we forgot to mention Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, who wasn't Commissioner Gordon in Batman and Robin.
Oh, she's in Batman. That's right. She's in Batman and Robin, isn't she?
Forgot about her.
Come on, guys. You're going to talk about a movie and forget all these things?
I completely forgot. Dude, do you know how long it's been since I've seen that? I've seen that movie once.
Since you guys don't remember, she's not Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She plays Alfred's
niece or something, right?
Niece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't even think her name, and they call her Barbara, but you know she's
obviously not related.
Barbara Gordon. She's got some weird last name.
Yet again. Okay, so this proves my point further that like both in the case of Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher, the first movie did well enough that they gave them more creative license in the second movie, and they both fucked it up more. And this is a perfect example. Like he just completely shit all over the whole idea of Batgirl and all of it. I mean, Alfred's niece. Like, have either of you ever read a comic book involving Batman where Alfred even had mention of a niece?
Nope.
Or any family for that matter, other than like, actually, I don't even recall.
Yeah,
any family.
Actually, there is a little talk of Alfred's family in some of them. The New 52 actually, they deal a little bit with
brother, right?
I don't. Was it a brother? But they actually show some scenes with Alfred's father in some of the Night of the Owl stuff.
But in the 1990s, this didn't exist, so this was like way outside.
Right? No, yeah.
Like
Joel Schumacher took all the money the studio gave him, put in a nice neat pile. Put Batman on top of that pile,
and lit it on fire.
Knelt above that pile, and took a big dump all over Batman.
All over.
Some men just want to watch the comic nerds burn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or at least want to choke themselves out.
So that was basically the end of. I mean, that was the end of Batman. That movie was so bad it killed Batman in theaters for over a decade, I think. I mean, for quite some time, it killed Batman in theaters for a long time, basically until the Marvel stuff started back up. And
97, not to cut you off, sorry. 97 was Batman and Robin, and 2005 was Batman Begins.
So almost a decade, so 8 years. 8 years it killed Batman until basically after, X-Men came out, Spider-Man, some of the, I think maybe Iron Man came out before the first Nolan movie, and those were successful. So then obviously DC was like, you know what, we've got one of the most, prolific superheroes. What are we doing? Why are we going to let that be our last Batman? That is a sin. So then they turned over the reins to Chris Nolan, and he created the Nolanverse. And as you can tell, we are all big fans of the Chris Nolan movies. Brian, walk me through it.
God, I love them. I mean, he kind of took Batman and whatever and everything that Batman is. I mean, he kind of made it. I feel like personally, I kind of feel like he made it his own, because you had a little personality traits differ in the character of Bruce Wayne and
but he didn't
Batman.
On the character.
No, not at all. I liked it. It was his own take on Batman. I feel like you would get a writer.
Still Batman.
If you would get a writer writing his own side story that has nothing to do with continuity about Batman, he kind of changes the character, and this is what Christopher Nolan did. He changed the character, a little bit of his lore and his backstory of becoming Batman, and some of the other characters and villains he put in there, but it all worked out to where it not only visually but mentally entertained us to what we were watching. And
well, that, and it followed the broad strokes of who is Batman,
Basically, yep.
It's not goofy humor. It's not, it's pretty dark. It's realistic in the fact, like if you look at like Batman and Batman Returns from the late 80s and early 90s, if you go back and watch it and pay attention to like the street scenes, like where they're like huddled around the mayor speaking or whatever, there's like 12 citizens. 15 citizens in all of Gotham, it looks like. I mean, you never see like the general public. Like, this is supposed to be a city, a big city, and there's no people in this movie. So that, when Nolan redid it, it was like real world. It was
some of that is a matter of scale. Like on a movie budget.
Well, yeah.
The problem is they tried to create Gotham in the 80s and 90s movies as some. They tried to create Gotham as a soundstage, and
that just doesn't do it.
And it doesn't work because it's just not a grand enough scale. It's not real enough. Like, it might have been fine for a couple of shots, but when things look too much like a set and not enough like an actual city, the story suffers. I feel like any time they do that in fantasy or sci-fi or comic book movies, you always run into that problem of the more they have to create from scratch and fake, the worse it looks.
Right.
And so the newer movies, they use existing real world elements and work them into the story so well that you get a sense that this is taking part, in a world, not
it's almost
on
a sense
a
of
set.
reality. Yeah.
And while they while the older movies didn't necessarily do too much wrong with Batman himself, other than some of their choices for actors, like the newer movies just they stay so true to the identities of the characters, and that's what makes them a successful Batman story. Anytime, even in comics, comic book writers, every single issue they write, they're creating a new story, they're adding to the lore, they're doing something new, and they're taking a risk. Every time, a comic book writer puts pen to paper, they're creating history, they're creating a new story for that character. They're not rewriting some existing lore, so it's like, obviously, new stories can be written with these heroes. It's about taking who they are, what's happened to them, and not shitting all over their history, but working it in and keeping the major plot points intact and writing your own story around it.
Right.
And Nolan did such a good job of that no one else before that, as far as the movies, seemed like they were even trying.
I don't get me wrong, I love all three of the Nolan movies. I think he absolutely hit it out of the park as far as staying true to the character, making it his own, building upon the lore, like you said, and really bringing a sense of reality, making, really taking you into the world that is Batman and Gotham City, and making you feel like you're a part of that while you're watching the movies. I love that stuff. My one complaint, the one thing that I definitely did not like about the Nolan movies was the Batmobile. You
didn't like the Tumbler?
It just because, it's cool, it's neat, it does a lot of neat shit, that's awesome. It just didn't feel like a Batmobile to me. Seeing the Batmobiles in the comics, seeing the Batmobiles in, Batman and Batman Returns, and if you want to count them as Batman movies, the Joel Schumacher movies, even the Batmobile, all the way back to the Adam West stuff that I remember watching reruns of as a kid, it strays so far that it just didn't feel like a Batmobile to me. That doesn't mean that it wasn't neat and it wasn't cool and it didn't. It fit fine. I just would have personally, I would have liked to see him use something a little, and I don't know how they would have done it, and I'm not asking them to change it because nobody would listen, but it would have been neat to see him somehow, somewhere between that and like the '89 Batmobile. Like the original, the Michael Keaton Batmobile and the Tumbler. Somewhere between those two would have been, I feel like, a happy medium to give you the traditional Batman feel, but the futuristic technological advancement type of look to it.
The funny thing is, the criticisms you levied against the Tim Burton Batmobile, that it had too many guns, that it would,
right, I agree,
is kind of what made the Batmobile in the Nolan films work so well. You've got, anytime you're going to pimp out a car, it's like, where does it come from? It's like, where... I hate when they bring in things and they don't give an explanation for where it came from. Does he have some
awesome
vehicle? They do such a good job of working in the fact that it was a military project that the budget fell out of. It has an origin. They didn't just oh hey, this random car shows up. Oh, and it looks sweet. In the garage, awesome, yay. They don't do that. And it's plausible. It's not the sleek sports car look that I would have preferred either, but I like way better that they made it plausible.
I agree. It fits very well.
Than that they just made something up that looks cool and threw it in there, and you leave the theater and later on you're thinking, where the did that come from?
See, I would have kind of liked if they would have taken the Tumbler, introduced it as a military project where the money just fell through, the funding fell out of it, and taken it and modified it slightly to make it, like more than just painting it, but somehow done some kind of body modifications to make it look a little more Batmobile-ish. I don't know. Like you said, I agree with you. I love how they give you a where is this from? How do we just have this technology? A good one that comes to mind for me is in the second one, Dark Knight. Just the Dark Knight, right? Yeah, Dark Knight. Where he's going after the guy in Japan or Hong Kong, and they do the skyhook thing, and they talk about how it's a CIA. It was a CIA funded project to get operatives out of hot zones or whatever. So they give that, right. Like you said, they give that well, why do we have this thing that allows a person to board a moving aircraft? Where the hell did this come from? It answers those questions before they come into mind, which I think is a big part of the way that Nolan makes those movies work. Brian?
It plays up, his Bruce Wayne's billionaire side. They show him oftentimes as being rich and living in some big mansion, but they don't ever show him doing anything with his intelligence and with his with his money in some of these other films. It's just he's rich. That's it.
Right.
In Nolan's movies, those are the kinds of toys you could buy with your billions and your contracts with weapons
Government
makers
agencies
and
or
government,
whatever, right?
and everything. It's like that's the kind of stuff you could do. It's like what makes Batman isn't just his brain and his training and everything. It's the resources he has behind him. It's like it's the gadgets that are such a part of Batman that make him unique, that somebody else just randomly training couldn't necessarily do the same thing. He's one of a kind, and that's part of what makes him who he is. And I like the fact that they wrote it into this movie, and they made that a part of the character.
Right. Brian, is
Yeah.
there anything that you don't like about the Nolan movies?
I feel like they kind of made Bruce Wayne a little like weaker. I mean, you see it a lot in the last movie, The Dark Knight Rises, where he's just ready to, like, especially at the end, he's just ready to like fake his death and give up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, same with Alfred. He just walked away from him. And Batman he was always like, there's always times where Bruce was like almost depressed at some point. And he's always, they gave him too much of a love story with,
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
I mean, Batman would never give up on the city, even if he took out the one main threat that was happening, or the villain of the month that was
Villain of the Month Club.
Yeah. He would never give up. He would always be there. He wouldn't just go, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to, France and go have a cup of coffee that's like the size of my thumb,
Right.
and laugh and play and smuggle away with, Catwoman and clean our slates and this and that. I mean, it's not that big of a hate. But I still it's a slight disappointment that he's just gonna give it to this kid that's first name happens to be Robin, that you learn at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I think he tried to show that that Batman will live on, and a big thing, a lot of what Nolan was trying to do, with that Batman character, was say that Batman is not, necessarily any one man. That Batman is a symbol, and that symbol can be detached from the man and passed on to someone else. And I think he very very clearly showed there at the end of the movie that Batman would continue. It just necessarily wouldn't be Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Yeah. I know, like we said at the beginning of talking about the Nolan movies, he made it his own thing, like any writer would do. That's not doing a continuity story, which when I watch the movies and for the first times, and I would like complain. It wouldn't be really like complaining like I hate this shit. It was just like odd, like a way off the beaten path of what I know Batman is, to make him kind of a little weaker than Bruce Wayne is in the comics. He took it his own, and I love those movies. I don't like going forward with the Batman movies and the Batfleck and stuff. I don't know how they can compare, even if they make Bruce Wayne, their Bruce Wayne, the next guy's Bruce Wayne, more like the comics. I think nobody could top the Nolan movies.
And I know we touched on this last week. Brian, you weren't in for that one, but we talked a little bit about the Batfleck, the rumors that were going around about how Ben Affleck could potentially be backing out of the Batman deal. None of us really feel like that theory holds water very much, but I'm very interested to see how they do Batman specifically in that movie. I mean, they're going to kill Superman. Superman's not a hard, that's not too difficult. But I think Batman is a much more complex character to really pull off successfully. And coming off the heels of the Nolanverse trilogy, where they just absolutely, Christian Bale killed it. I mean, the only thing that is, he sounded kind of dumb sometimes when he was yelling in that stupid voice that they all make. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. And we touched on last week too that Kevin Smith had an idea that they should introduce a like a voice modulator into the suit to alter
Kind of like
his
what
voice.
they do on that Arrow show.
So that they can do whatever voice changes they want in post editing and doesn't sound all shitty. But I'm really more than that. I'm more interested in to see. I hope Ben Affleck gets it first. I hope he does it because I think that he'll absolutely kill it. But I think that he's got some big shoes to fill right now.
Yeah, he does.
Because the most recent, Christian Bale could have done a shitty job and everybody would have been like, yeah, Batman. He fucking killed it. Like, because he's coming off of George Clooney was last. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
going to be big shoes to fill,
It's like running a race against a bunch of, like, 5-year-olds. Like, you're probably going to win. Like, just saying.
I saw something that you might like about the new Batman, though. I saw a concept drawing of a possible new Batmobile, and it was a modified Corvette Stingray. Yes. So there you go. We're getting back to our.
I think it was a prototype.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think it was a prototype Stingray that should be coming out some year. The one where they took the Corvette and put the paint scheme on it.
Mm-hmm.
That one, Topher?
Yeah, I don't. This wasn't an actual physical car. I think this was a concept drawing that someone did. It was like a CG 3D rendering. But they had actually, they'd filled it out a lot more and included some room for some gadgets. But I didn't see any Batman related markings on it or anything. I think someone did it as a possible submission for
hey, check this out,
the Batmobile.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Did it have the siren in the middle?
No,
the bat
no, it did not.
Did it have the bat? No. Did it have the bat shark repellent?
It did have the the parachute in the back though, so it could make a bat turn.
Oh my god! To think about how far we've come in the Batman universe as far as movies and television stuff goes is incredible. And I for one, I know that there's been talks about like the Gotham whatever TV show that takes place in the Batman universe. I hope they do something like that. I really do. Even if it doesn't necessarily have Batman in it, I would like to see a lot of the parallel characters and develop their relationships on a TV series would be really cool.
They're saying that you're gonna see the origins of like Penguin, Riddler within the TV shows, but they've been like rumors that it might be revolved around Bruce, or it might be revolved around pre-Commissioner Gordon,
right, Lieutenant Gordon,
James
right.
Gordon, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it should be definitely interesting to see how that all pans out and stuff. And as we get updates on that, we'll obviously keep everybody out there in the Comic Book Nerd Nation up to date. That about wraps it up for another episode, our 10th episode, actually, guys. It's just about coming up on 3 months. Been getting a lot of support. Everybody seems to like the podcast a lot. Make sure you check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/Comic Book Nerd Nation. The link will be in the description of the video. If you guys have any questions, anything that you'd like us to cover on the show, make sure you leave a comment. Let us know. Send us a message on the Facebook page. We'd be more than happy to discuss whatever you guys want. And also, we've got some guests that are we're in works with scheduling right now for a gentleman that owns it's the Derby City Comic Convention in Louisville, Kentucky, as well as comicrelated.com. He's an owner of that. So that'll be really awesome to have him on for an episode, and we'll just see where this crazy ride takes us. But for this week, I'm signing out. This is Fox 2. I got the whole effing Brian.
Goodbye.
And Batman.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
We'll see you guys.